Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining our WNCT Now late afternoon news update. I'm Kelsey O'Donnell here inside the digital studio with some of today's top news headlines. Now, our big story today is the weather. We're monitoring weather conditions not only across the country, but here in the east as people make final preparations ahead of potential severe weather patterns. Our Storm Team 9 meteorologist Alex Wassilenko joins us from the studio with some preparations that you need to know before heading out for the rest of the night.
This afternoon, we skyrocket into the 70s and 80s, but due to that warm up and, of course, that warm front lifting north, it is going to lead to the destabilization of the atmosphere and, in particular, for some of our southern counties, maybe the likelihood of some isolated tornadoes. The highest tornado risk will reside in the red shaded areas, Onslow, Duplin, Craven, Lenoir counties, Jones, and also Carteret counties. Listen up, folks. If your name county was just mentioned there, you need to remain extra weather aware today. The rest of us, well, you need to remain extra weather aware too, because the severe weather risk doesn't just fall off outside of that red shaded area. It only continues as that system will plow through this afternoon and evening. The highest risk time will be 2 p.m. to midnight tonight, with heavy rain becoming likely, high winds, damaging winds at that, a moderate chance for large hail and a moderate chance for those isolated tornadoes. This is fresh model data, hot off the press, if you will. Read all about it. We're talking about some isolated showers early this morning, isolated strong to severe thunderstorms breaking out for the early afternoon and into the early evening. From the early evening into late tonight, that's when the tornado potential ramps up again, especially across our southern and coastal communities. As we work our way towards midnight, that's when those showers and strong to severe storms will reach the Outer Banks, and thereafter the system pushes out to sea. But just you wait. There's a secondary cold front that'll be moving through Friday morning. It will produce one last round of heavy rain, and then temperatures will plummet from the 50s and 60s to start the day Friday, back down into the 30s and 40s to round it on out. Highs today will top out in the 70s and 80s with morning fog and showers, followed by an afternoon of severe weather. Your boating forecast today showing 5 to 8 foot seas for the coast with choppy lakes and rivers. And by the overnight period, lows will fall back into the 50s. It'll be cloudy and mild with showers and storms coming to an end after midnight and then picking back up in action just in time for that Friday morning commute. Do take an important note here. Temperatures on Friday, yes, they'll start off mild in the 50s and 60s, Julianne. They'll end up in the 30s and 40s by the end of the day, setting us up for a dry yet very cold first day of spring in the low 50s.
All right, thank you, Alex. In Alabama, our sister station is reporting a significant amount of damage to homes and communities. Reporter Michael Clark shares one woman's incredible story of survival. Michael?
4 big old trees.
Walking in between the trees that destroyed her home.
Everything I worked hard for is gone.
Jennifer Patterson knows that despite the damage to her car and property,
This is my living room. This is where I sit every day.
It's a blessing she's still alive tonight. Patterson was all packed up, ready to head to her son's house for shelter after a tornado warning in nearby Moundville.
And I realized I didn't have my keys. So I took a screwdriver and was trying to get my door open to get my keys. And I just kept messing with it. And being in Moundville, that's not that far away. So I thought, I don't have time for this.
With the storm moving closer, Patterson ran to her backyard, ducking under brush in a ravine.
I was down in there holding on. And that little tree right there yonder is probably the one I was holding on to.
While trees fell around her, Patterson stayed on the phone with her son, not knowing if it was the last call the two would share.
He was hearing everything that was going on. He was hearing his mama scream. He was hearing the sounds go on. And, you know, all I could do was just say, Jesus, watch over me, Jesus, watch over me. And then it just kept going and going and going. And finally I just said, Jesus, take it away. And it's just like you could hear it easing up.
Somehow unharmed, Patterson is thankful to be reunited with her son. They'll return tomorrow to see what can be salvaged, but tonight she's counting her blessings.
I started once, I'll start again. And I know the good Lord was watching over me, because how that little old bitty tree held me, I don't know, but it did.
All right, that was Michael Clark reporting from our sister station in Alabama. Make sure you're ready for bad storms by prepping your home and your family with tools and knowledge. When severe weather hits, like a tornado, make sure you avoid windows and pick a safe room to pile into. Experts say a basement is the safest place. However, there are other options if you don't have access to one. They say head to a bathroom without windows or a closet, whichever is on the lowest floor. It's also encouraged to have flashlights and batteries if the power goes out. If you have time, move any garbage cans, and patio furniture inside. And pack a bag with food, water, and a first aid kit if possible. If you are caught outside, take shelter in a sturdy enclosed building or a hardtop automobile immediately. Try to avoid open spaces, isolated objects, high ground, and metal objects as well. Still ahead on WNCT Now updates, we'll take a look at our afternoon crime tracker, plus how COVID-19 and the vaccine could affect you here in North Carolina. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
Severe weather can make life difficult, especially here in the East. Dropping temperatures, school closings, freezing rain, ice and snow.
Gusty winds over 20 miles an hour.
A freezing fog advisory is in effect.
Chief Meteorologist Jerry Jackson and his team of weather experts keep you ahead of any storm.
And this rain shield continues to pump in.
Storm Team 9, keeping you safe in severe weather. In the WNCT Digital Studio is online for you. Live afternoon news updates.
Continuing to track COVID-19 cases.
Don't forget the positive news with Feel Good Friday.
How about we break out some dance moves to kick off your weekend? Remember to see the good in each day.
And if you're looking for your next eatery, Digital Dining has you covered.
Tonight we're visiting Cucina La Mantilla. We visit Blend in Jacksonville. We're visiting La Cocina del Colqui.
These and more on WNCT Now under the live stream tab.
All right, welcome back in, everyone. If you're just now joining, welcome in, get comfortable. My name is Kelsey O'Donnell here in the digital studio with some of today's top news headlines in between our newscast. Now, like we mentioned before the break, we're going to take a look at our afternoon crime tracker. One man is arrested in Greenville in connection to the murder of Marshayla Paisley back in January. Pitt County officials arrested 20-year-old Spencer Wiggins, the third person tied to the death of Marshayla Paisley and the shooting of a minor. Wiggins is charged with first-degree murder and an assault with a deadly weapon with the intent to kill. He's being held at the Pitt County Detention Center, where there is no bond listed on the murder. A $2.5 million bond, however, is posted for the other charges. This is an ongoing investigation, and if anyone knows any information regarding this case, call the Pitt County Sheriff's Office. In other news, we're continuing to track the latest developments of the coronavirus across our state. Millions more people are now eligible to get the coronavirus vaccine in North Carolina. The first part of Group 4 is now being vaccinated. Group 4 includes people ages 16 through 64 with high-risk medical conditions and people living in closed group settings such as jails and homeless shelters. Governor Roy Cooper is saying that there are plenty of vaccines to meet the demand. Officials are saying that if you still have questions about getting vaccinated, talk to your primary care doctor. COVID patients are still walking through the doors of Carolina East Medical Center. Doctors and nurses say they are better suited for the job in fighting the coronavirus compared to when the pandemic began. Healthcare workers describe the first few months as chaotic and nerve-wracking. Doctors say there were limited supplies on how to handle the virus. Now, the caregivers follow policies and guidelines learned from this past year. They say it's easier to understand what's happening now, what symptoms to look out for, and can offer better treatments. But still, to this day, they're still stepping in as family members because of restrictions placed on visitors. Tonight at 6 and 11, 9 Your Side's Camila Barco looks at how doctors and nurses have adapted to the pandemic in and out of the hospital. You can also find the full report on WNCT.com. Turning now to sports, it's game day. The NCAA kicks off with March Madness and the first four today. The first four games usually get started on a Tuesday and go to a Wednesday, but this year, since all the games will be in Indiana, they shifted things around just a bit. The first game is at 5:10 with Texas Southern squaring off against Mount St. Mary's. Then Drake University and Wichita State will play each other at 6:27. Then App State versus Norfolk State, and the last game today is UCLA against Michigan State. Now, the main function of the adjusted schedule is for the health and safety protocols for everyone involved. The late start gave the the NCAA a bigger window to replace any teams that didn't meet testing protocols. And now, any team that has a positive test and can't compete, well, they're out, and their opponent automatically moves on to the next round. It also gave more time for officials to figure out whether or not to allow fans to the games, a decision made considering Indiana's positivity rate is down around 3%. This will just about wrap up our WNCT Now updates, but before we go, I want to share some awesome, groundbreaking, positive news to you all. A teacher who lost her arm will soon be the first person in the nation to receive a unique bionic one. Doctors amputated Sandra Stieber's arm when she broke her collarbone and blood clots cut off circulation to her hand. But reporter Hunter Franks, shows us how her life is about to change.
I'm just trying to breathe and take it all in.
Sandra Stieber has waited 3 years
to get one of the world's first bionic arms that's operated purely by my thoughts.
A year and a half ago, Stieber met with a doctor in New York.
There you go.
And learned she is a candidate for a new prosthetic, which uses nerves in her arm to move her hand in several directions. But her insurance would not pay for the arm. While there were changes made in the Kansas legislature to have expanded coverage, Stieber says there were still hiccups.
It looked like it wasn't going to happen at all.
That's when some donors stepped in to help, paying off the last $50,000.
But like I said, we got some donors, and they want to be anonymous, but we think they're amazing.
After surgically inserting a rod into her bone and several months of healing and physical therapy,
so that I could practice.
Stieber, her husband, an occupational therapist from Extension Via Christi, will spend a week learning how the arm works.
So it's just a relief to know that, she's getting her arm back. She'll be able to do so much more.
They'll be able to be a lot more functional and have the dexterity and coordination to do the things that they want to do without the assistance of other people.
Stieber says the opportunity is lifting her spirits up.
Yep, you ready?
As she moves forward into a new life.
It's just like surreal.
Hunter Funk, KSN News 3.
All right, thank you, Hunter. Some pretty cool stuff going on out there. This will officially wrap up our WNCT Now late afternoon news update. As always, we say every time, if you would like to learn more information about any of these stories listed today, head over to our website at WNCT.com. Until then, tune into our newscast coming up this afternoon at 5, just about 50 minutes. And make sure you stay weather aware and stay safe out there ahead of all this severe weather. So thank you so much for tuning in. I'm Kelsey O'Donnell here in the digital studio. We'll see you next week.